Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. It's Friday, September 26th. Former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted by a federal grand jury in Virginia. The former bureau chief is charged with one count of making a false statement and one count of obstruction of congressional proceedings. Comey is denied any wrongdoing. If convicted, he faces up to 5 years in prison. The case was brought by Lindsay Halligan, the president's newly sworn-in, hand-picked replacement for the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. Career prosecutors at the office and those who work underneath her tried to advise against the charges in a memo to Halligan earlier this week, citing a lack of evidence. The previous U.S. attorney resigned after the president said he should be fired for his part in refusing to bring this case, citing insufficient evidence. President Trump insists he did fire him. Comey was one of the 3 prominent critics that the president specifically named in a social media post addressed to the Attorney General, or urging her to pursue the cases against him. And Willie, if you read the front of the New York Times this morning in a story by Maggie Haberman, Alan Feuer, and Jonah Bromwich, they sum it up this way. The clearest way to understand the extraordinary nature of the indictment on Thursday of James B. Comey, the former FBI director, is to offer up a simple recitation of the facts. An inexperienced prosecutor, loyal to President Trump, in the job for less than a week, filed criminal charges against one of her boss's most reviled opponents. She did so not only at Mr. Trump's direct command, but also against the urging of both her own subordinates and her predecessor, who had just been fired for raising concerns that there was insufficient evidence to indict. And that's where we are this morning, Willie, and bad news all around. Many people in Washington I talked to last night after this came down said, we've crossed the Rubicon.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as plain as you can put it. The New York Times this morning saying factually that the previous U.S. attorney, by the way, appointed by President Trump, not some deep stater, said there was no case here, no charges could be brought. He's forced out of his job. Donald Trump puts in his personal attorney, who until a week ago was not a prosecutor ever in her career. And within less than a week, we get this indictment of James Comey. And yes, you're right. Now, many of his other opponents, past, present, real, and perceived, are on notice. Ahead of yesterday's indictment, President Trump himself said, yes, when asked, I could get involved in the Comey case if I wanted to.
We have very professional people, headed up by the Attorney General and Todd Blanche and Lindsay Halligan, who's a very smart, good lawyer, very good lawyer. They're going to make a determination. I'm not making that determination. I think I'd be allowed to get involved if I want, but I don't really choose to do so. I can only say that Comey's a bad person. He's a sick person. I think he's a sick guy, actually. He did terrible things at the FBI. And but I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen.
After the indictment came in, the president celebrated on social media, writing, "Justice in America. One of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI." That's from the President of the United States. The Attorney General and Director of the FBI also posting statements, writing, "No one is above the law." Comey himself responded to the charges defiantly in a video posted to social media.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid. And I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system. and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
Let's have a trial and keep the faith, says Comey, whose arraignment now is set for October 9th. He will appear before U.S. District Court Judge Michael Nachmanoff, an appointee of President Biden. Joe, there's a potential 5-year prison term here on these charges, obstruction of justice, making a false statement. Interesting to note, the short 2-page indictment signed only by the U.S. Attorney, Lindsay Halligan. They're typically signed by the prosecutors who brought the case as an endorsement of the charges. No prosecutor's signature appears on this indictment.
Well, because nobody wants to be a part of this indictment. They understand this was an order by the President of the United States, that it broke and it violated all precedents, all legal norms, that it is a violation of the most basic understandings of the line that is supposed to be between the President of the United States and the Attorney General. But here we actually have the president ordering his attorney general and ordering this new attorney, who is not experienced, she's never been a prosecutor before, to move forward with this. And the president of the United States saying that he had nothing but the best people there again, flies once again in the face of the basic facts. So it's a tough day. It's a tough day for people who believe in the rule of law, who believe in the political norms and the constitutional norms that have shaped this country, at least post-Watergate. And you have Republicans, some Republicans, who are cheering this. So just to be clear, they are cheering the President of the United States going on social media, demanding that his political enemies be arrested. President of the United States demanding on social media that his political enemies be arrested to his Attorney General. The Attorney General then, I suppose, tries to get the Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney to bring charges against a former director of the FBI. The Trump-appointed prosecutor says, no, I can't do that. There's nothing here. We have no case. So the President of the United States fires that Trump-appointed prosecutor and gets somebody out of his office and says, go down there and have at it. And then the president says yesterday, oh, I don't have anything to do. It's just, it's again, as we've been saying about the FCC, as we've been saying about so many things that Donald Trump has been doing, especially over the past few weeks, Republicans must understand that what goes around comes around. They must understand that if there's a billionaire independent who decides to be president of the United States, gets elected, and then decides to start going after Republicans, Republican senators, Republican House members, Republican judges, Republican political operatives, all that independent will have to do is just pick up the phone, call his or her Attorney General, and say, arrest Republican Senator A, arrest Republican political opponent B, go after conservative think tank C. I mean, it's, again, extraordinarily dangerous. But I will tell you, James Comey, a man who has somehow managed to offend both sides of the political landscape over the past 15, 20 years, actually last night united those who actually still believe in the rule of law in America, and obviously inspired by what he had to say about having to now defend himself against bogus charges that even Donald Trump's own prosecutors didn't want charged.
And for all the talk over the last several years of alleged weaponization of government, here it is right in front of us, the weaponization of government. Also have to note the timing. The statute of limitations, 5 years on the alleged crime here, was up on Tuesday. So time was of the essence for President Trump and his new U.S. attorney in Virginia. We've got